Good evening, everyone. This is Lisa Lee. Today we're going to talk about education. So I believe education is the solution for every single thing that our mankind has been facing. So it actually ends poverty, and it gives people a purpose in life. So people that are more educated are less likely to be homeless and to be out of a job.
Over the past few years, the United States and other Western countries have seen a trend of teachers quitting their jobs. Among their chief complaints is an overwhelming focus on standardized testing and the feeling that their professional opinions are ignored. Perhaps as a result, the United States was 29th in the most recent rankings of countries by education. So we wanted to know which countries have the best education and what are they doing right.
So recently there's been a big study with many kids from all over the world. They found out that American kids, they are ranked a lot lower, significantly lower than Finnish kids from Finland. And Finland is known to have the best education system in the world. And for this theory is because American schools, they use a standardized test like SAT to test their students.
In 2015, the OECD released a report on universal basic skills, including one of the largest global education rankings. A substantial portion of the ranking is based on an international assessment of reading, mathematics, and science literacy, called PISA. Now, since the year 2000, Finland has topped most international education lists, especially based on PISA scores.
But their education method is a little bit more creative and less systematic compared to a lot of the countries in Asia, and which they mostly just do testing. Right now, I have the privilege to interview this investigative journalist, Alvaro Pintas. He was able to travel to Finland to interview a lot of the scholars there at Finland. They claim that it's best for kids to play more and focus on their interest in life so they can become a valuable member of our society and be able to give and help out in our community. So a lot of these teachers, they claim that it's better for the students to study less, play more, and give them no homework. So what's your take on that, Alvaro?
Well, that's a lot of things to cover, but it's hard to compare the two education systems, the one in Finland and the one in the United States, because the United States is a much bigger country, and compared with Finland being a mostly homogenous country, basically everybody's white, of the same background.
Middle class.
Yeah. In the United States, we have a lot of diversity and a lot of different backgrounds and completely different values than in Finland.
Here in the United States, we love to brag about being number one. Except when it comes to education, that is, where we regularly rank around 37th in the world.
In Finland, people are more content, I guess, with less, you can say. They try to be happy in most of the things they do. And in the United States, we're a very consumer-centered culture.
But you know what country does consistently rate among the best in the world in education? Finland, apparently. That's right, the small Nordic country best known for giving the world Nokia phones, Angry Birds, and...
But when it comes to school, kids don't always learn the same. And the way our system is set up in the United States is everything is standardized and, one size fits all kind of a system. Mm-hmm. And that really doesn't work too well for many of the kids, because some kids are very smart and they just get bored of, repetition and memorizing everything. They want to be outside. They want to explore their world. Kids are born, small scientists. I have 2 kids and they want to touch everything, see how it works, break it and see what's inside. So what we do in the US is we kind of get them into a way of thinking where you have to memorize everything and take the fun out of learning, which is not what they do in Finland.
Here are the 5 reasons that set Finland apart. Reason number 1, no child gets left behind, literally. Finland provides all families, particularly low-income families, with a vast social safety net. The Finnish government sends a baby box of supplies to every family with a newborn child. And then from there on, childcare is heavily subsidized, allowing most families to send their children to some form of early childhood education. Finland's public schools also concentrate on making sure that every student achieves basic proficiency in the subjects that they study. Whereas here in the US, students and school districts are expected to compete against one another for limited resources, inevitably creating a system of winners and losers. This difference in approach is one of the reasons why the achievement gap that exists between the rich and poor in American schools is smaller in Finland than anywhere else in the world.
And in Finland, it's more flexible. All the schools are state-run, but they're run in a different way. It's a newer way of teaching that other Nordic countries do as well. And in order to implement that in the United States, I guess we would have to give the schools more freedom to teach their students and let the schools with the kids that are doing the worst be able to choose their teachers a little bit better, because in the US we have tenure, which means, good teacher, bad teacher, they're all the same. Can't get rid of a bad teacher. And good teachers, well, they might get stuck at a school where they can't teach the way they want or the way they're good at. So that's one thing to get rid of. And
Reason number 2, they're just like more chill, man. Finnish children don't even start school until they turn 7, and once they're in school, they get almost triple the amount of recess time as American students. They're rarely assigned homework until high school, and they almost never take standardized tests. In fact, Finnish students are only required to take one standardized test, and that's not until the end of high school.
And in the US, the school system is enormous. In the LA school district alone, there's hundreds of administrators making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year each. And that money should be better focused on the schools. But, there's the teachers union and a lot of other stuff I don't want to get into.
Reason number 3, teachers are actually, get this, respected. Becoming a teacher isn't easy in Finland. There are only 8 universities that offer the master's programs required to earn a teaching credential, and only 1 in 10 applicants get accepted. So it's no surprise that teachers in Finland receive roughly the same level of respect as doctors and lawyers. Plus, thanks to powerful unions, Finnish teachers only spend 4 hours a day in the classroom and take 2 hours a week for professional development.
But for the most part, if you can afford to send your kids to private school, anybody would do it in the United States if they can afford it. And those schools are more closer to what they do in Finland, letting their kids learn the way they learn and not, one size fits all. And when you teach kids the way they learn, they actually learn better and their talent really shines.
Reason number 4, they believe that less is more. And I'm rhyming now. Finns believe that when it comes to education, patience, hands-on learning, and focusing on problem solving are more important than listening to lectures, mindless test preparation, and memorization of information that students will promptly forget as soon as they leave the exam room. I know, it's a really crazy concept, right? And then Finnish teachers don't race through lessons to cram as much information as possible into students' heads so that the students can then spit that information back out on a standardized test. Instead, they give priority to moving slowly and taking as much time as necessary to thoroughly investigate fewer topics, but in much greater depth. Reason number 5, they have fewer social ills.
But unfortunately, with state-run schools, that's not always the case. It's just, if our kids can't pass the standardized test, then we lower the standard. And if our kids aren't doing well, then it's because we need more money. But there's a lot of school reform that needs to come to the US, and we should look at a model closer to what they do in Finland or in some private schools. Thank you.
Almost everyone in Finland is middle class, so income inequality is not nearly the problem there that it is in the US. Almost all Finnish kids come to school well-fed, rested, and ready to learn. There are no metal detectors, no cops patrolling the school hallways. Finland also has far fewer immigrant students. Only 1 in 40 students in Finnish schools has immigrant parents. Compare that number to the US public schools, where that figure is 1 in 5. That means there are not nearly as many kids in Finland's schools who are trying to learn math, science, and history in a completely new language, all while also trying to learn that new language itself. So should we in the US just admit that the Finns know education better than we do and go ahead and abandon our system and adopt theirs? Of course not. That's ridiculous. For one thing, where would we find enough teachers who speak Finnish? Zing. But what we should admit is that when it comes to education, we just don't have all the answers. There's plenty we can learn from countries like Finland that do things very differently, but have a proven track record of achieving better results. We just have to be more open to what educational innovators are doing around the globe. If we could only stop shouting, "We're number 1" long enough to listen for a change.
All right, so you pretty much agree that we can implement a little bit of their educational system, and also we can modify some of the things that America is doing that's not benefiting the school system, so we can actually combine these two systems together.
In a way, but also instead of having more administrators than teachers, or more money going to the administrators, have that money go to good teachers and reward them, and get rid of the teachers that aren't doing so well, not just keep everyone because you have tenure. And well, there's a lot to do, but I guess that would be a start.
Well, thank you for inspiring us. So in the future, our goal is actually to be able to educate students to find their interest in life, whether their goal is in the science industry, the business sector, or the art entertainment industry. They can find something they like and also help others along the way. It's from underprivileged communities and also third world countries, and make a difference in this world.
Having a strong education system is integral to future economic success. Looking at the far end of education rankings, Ghana had the lowest secondary school enrollment rate of countries surveyed, as well as the lowest PISA scores. The OECD has predicted that if Ghana could meet universal basic skill goals, they could see their GDP rise 38 times higher over the lifetime of a child born today. They also point out that when a nation's population is uneducated, it equates to lost economic output and can lead to a permanent economic recession as a result.
This is our future goal.
Education is one of the most important criteria for determining the present and future health of a nation. And while not every country has the resources or cultural emphasis for successful modes of teaching, it is clear that governments should be treating education as an extremely high priority.
So thanks for watching.